Okay, hello everybody. We're going to start today with the word level stress, and we're going to be working towards doing sentence level stress, and then we're going to break up the sentences into thought groups, and we're going to look at how that can all change. But it will all begin with word level stress, and in this video, we're going to sort of tell you how to look for the pronunciation and the stress within the word by using an electronic dictionary. We're going to be using dictionary.com for this one, although other dictionaries will work. And then we're also going to talk about the schwa vowel sound and how we can find it. So when I say stress, I don't mean like feeling worried or the feeling of stress. We're going to be talking about pronouncing a syllable or a word more loudly or clearly than the other syllables or words around it. And we can see here that stress can be both a noun or a verb, right? So we can stress the word, right? We can pronounce it with more prominent loudness. Or we could talk about the stress of a word, and that would be how we would use it in a noun form. Now you guys can get to this. This is just a screen capture of this website, but if you click on these clouds, that will allow you to take a link that will, in this case, take you to this dictionary.com page for stress, and you can look around it a little bit yourself. But sometimes these clouds will take you to websites to explain things in more detail, that kind of thing. So if you ever see a cloud, I'm going to make the PowerPoint here available too. Click it and explore. All right, so then what is a syllable? Well, we can see that a syllable is a sound, and a syllable is a part of the word, or it could be the whole word. And it can be a single letter, like you would see in the article a. But it could also be a combination of vowels and consonants, right? And here are the vowels and the consonants, right? So vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and consonants are the rest of the letters. Okay, and here is just some basic syllable rules. If you want to know how to break up a word just by looking at it on your own, you could memorize these, or you could just read it and get the basic idea, and that might help you remember it. And this cloud will take you to the whole website. We'll use it a couple of times, but take a minute to read it. Just pause the video, read it for a second, go to the website if you really want to, but you could just read it here. And then unpause the video and we'll go to the next slide. Right, now here we can see that when you look up the word on dictionary.com, which is what I want you to use for this class, but you'll see something that will look somewhat like this, where we have a syllable, right? The word itself, and then the actual pronunciation guide beside it. And so syllables are going to be shown between these two brackets. Each syllable is going to have a dash between it, so you can see the way the different syllables stop. There's a space here, which could be a little bit confusing, but the actual dash is showing you the end of the syllable. And then the darkest syllable is the stressed one. So in this word, syll is where we're putting our emphasis or our stress. And so as you can see, this word has 3 syllables. Okay, now the noun form of the word is syllable, and the adjective form is syllabic. And if a word only has 1 syllable, we're going to call it monosyllabic. And then if that's the case, if it's a 1-syllable word, then that syllable will be stressed. We can think about a word like day. That's a 1 stress, like a monosyllabic word with 1. There's only 1 way to stress it. Week is another example. And I can't really do it any other way. And if you are, that could be a good way to know if you're maybe mispronouncing a word. Because if you're saying day as two syllables, day, then you're saying it the wrong way. And that could also be the case with week. That would be two syllables, and then you know you're saying the word the wrong way. But we're going to come back to this because we don't always stress every word. And so some syllables, well, a lot of single syllable or monosyllabic words will not be stressed because of the kind of word they are. And we call those function words, and we'll come back to that when we are looking at sentence level stress. But for now, I'm not going to give you vocabulary words that are not the words we would stress, so we would stress them, right? It's also to notice here that when we change the word form, we may be able to still recognize it. It looks almost the same, but we've changed the pronunciation. And as a result, we've also changed the stress on it. So syllable, we've got the stress on the first one, which is here, syllable. And then syllabic, we've got the stress in the middle, syllabic. So the stress has changed from the noun to the adjective form of this word, and that can happen sometimes. So it's important to note that that can happen and keep your eye on it. Okay, so we've got two different ways that we can look at the pronunciation. So the first one is up here, and it is the phonetic respelling. And that's what we were looking at before. And we're basically just taking the way that the word would be written if English was a simple language and it always followed the same pattern for writing, which it doesn't. The way that you read a word and then the way you say it could have a whole bunch of different things that would make it different than what you expect, and that's why you have to learn and memorize a lot of stuff. But it's because of how complicated the history of English is, and how much it's used, and how many different factors are from different languages are coming together. So we can't predict it just by reading a word. We don't know, unless you really, really know the history of how words are spelt and can guess, which I don't think most of us can. Then you really just have to look up a lot of these words to know how they're spelled. So the phonetic respelling, and it's because it's not the original spelling, it's a respelling, looks like that. And then there's also the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is often called IPA, and that is down here. And you can see that these are different symbols, and each symbol might look a little bit like English letters, but it's not the actual English letters. It's a symbol for a sound, and each sound that we can make in English will have a different symbol, and you can go and explore those symbols. I've put a link to an IPA phonetic chart that you can click and hear the sound of it all, and it's useful for you if you want to see all the different sounds and maybe have a collection of all the different sounds in English. But I'm not going to ask you to memorize all of the IPA symbols for the pronunciation guide. Especially, I don't think it's worth your energy, because it's so easy to hear people say it, and so many electronic dictionaries are going to have sound that you can hear somebody actually say the word. So I think that it's just getting so easy that it's not worth learning the symbols. But it is good to know that they are here, and there's the two different styles. The other thing that's worth noting is with the respelling from dictionary.com, they've put it as a bolded letter or bolded letters here, but down here they're using an apostrophe to show you where the stress is. They're not bolding the letters, they're just putting an apostrophe. So that is also worth knowing, because sometimes they'll use this way to show the stress instead of that way. All right, and we've got some of the same basic accent rules from that same website we looked at earlier, and you can pause the video and look at them. And a lot of them are kind of good to know. If you don't want to be looking up every word all the time, you could memorize these. Okay, but now we're gonna take a look at the schwa, and this is the sound, or this is the IPA symbol for the schwa. Now, the schwa is the most common sound in English, and it's considered to be a lazy sound because we're making it because we don't really want to be pronouncing the proper sound, or we can't necessarily pronounce the proper sound. And it sounds like as in umbrella, but it's softer, and your mouth should be open just a little bit when you say it, and you shouldn't really be doing a whole lot because it really is just it's almost a filler sound to take over the other sound that you would be getting from the actual vowel. And it's going to be in some unstressed syllables in words, and it's going to change the vowel sound, and that's the really important thing that you guys have to know. The schwa takes the vowel sound that you would expect and replaces it with an kind of a dead sound. You can check out this link here to a website that's going to give a lot more in-depth explanations of how the schwa is being used, and how you can listen to different examples of that. But we'll kind of look at some together. So in the phonetic respelling, we can see here with the word syllable that if we were actually reading this, and consonant or vowel sounds are really a lot more difficult than consonant sounds for most speakers. That's where you're going to see a lot of errors coming in. You may have really big problems with vowel sounds. You might be doing the wrong thing for a lot of them. So I always, in my brain, when I'm trying to remember what they are, I have the A-B, or A is for apple, right? A, apple, I recommend you try that if you are having problems, because you may find that that's easier, but I'll kind of do this here. So sill, this is going to be a sill. So you'd expect it to be as in apple, sill, bull, right? But if we look over here, it's sill, and then we've got another here. So we've got a syllable. And these are both schwas. And we can tell that they're schwad because they're tilted slightly to side, which is what we call italicized, and it's UH. And if we come back over here and we see an A, well, that's not an umbrella U, right? So, okay, that's kind of fishy. Well, that's because it's a schwa. And you can see that this stress is on the first syllable of the word syllable. It's on the sill. So these two, then we can guess, okay, well, we're seeing us, we're not seeing U's, and it's unstressed. That would be a schwa. And then we can check over with the phonetic respelling, and on the website you just click here to show it, and we can see we've got the symbols to match that as well. So it looks like we've got syllable. And so you can hear when I do this, I'll do it a couple of times. Syllable, 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 right? Syllable. If I put the stress in the middle, it might be syllable, syllable. If I put the stress in the that would become, it would go back to the A sound, right? And so we would change the stress there, but because it's on the first one, syllable. Now I've done what you're never supposed to do and taken a bunch of examples from Wikipedia, but I like this a lot because you can see that it's happening in a lot of different cases. And you can go and read the Wikipedia page for the schwa. It's kind of an interesting thing, but you see A, E, I, O, U, and Y is sometimes a vowel, like in words like cry or dry. And then what's also very interesting is that sometimes it's not, there's no letter there, there's no vowel there, and we have to add a schwa to make the word easier to pronounce. And we'll go through that, and we'll go through all of them, and you'll hear that at the end. So the first one, this is a really, really, really common place that you're going to see a schwa, and it's where we've got a word that starts with an A, and the stress is elsewhere. It's not on the first syllable. So it's not apple, about. It's about. Okay? I want to talk to you about something. About. I want to talk about it. Okay? Attack is another one that I use a lot. Attack. Attain. A-T, right? Attain. You see a lot of those. So this is a place to really watch it. Does the word actually start with an A? Or is it a fake A, kind of, because the stress is at the back of the word? Here's an E. Elephant, right? Taken. But we say taken. He was taken away. Taken. Right? That's So he was taken away. Because he was such a crazy guy, they had to take him. And so before he knew it, he was taken away. Okay. An I. Ink. Iguana. Igloo. Iguana. Pencil. Could you pass me a pencil? People would probably understand you. But it's an pencil. Hey, I broke my pencil. Could you pass me one of your pencils? It's an so that's the schwa. O as in memory. Memory. Octopus. Right? Octopus. Memory. Again, I think people would understand you, but you're going to sound a little strange. Memory. I am having a lot of wonderful memories of when I wasn't sitting at my desk recording videos for you and was instead teaching you in a classroom. That was a lot of fun. What's the next one? Supply. U. Umbrella. Well, the U is almost, it's like, yeah, I guess it's a schwa because it's unstressed, but it's the same sound. So, as you like it. If it's, I guess, it's supply. I guess it's a little less stressed. So that's why. Y. Syllable. Yeah, I don't think you see this very much. It's uncommon to have, well, I don't want to say that it's uncommon. You don't see a lot of Y words going on, but Syllable. And then this is the interesting one that I like, and it's rhythm. And you can see it's a THM, which would be thm. Rhythm. But we don't do that. Then it's instead rhythm. And so even though there's no letter there, we still have a schwa. Rhythm. Okay. So check out the Wikipedia page if you're so inclined. It's up here. Okay. So what do you do next? Well, you can get all your words and you go and check. And I'll give you the vocabulary words and you'll check them. And you'll put in the stress and you'll look for any schwas. But then you have to actually check to see if you can be understood when you're pronouncing those words. So you could wait to talk to me, but that might not happen. Even if the world were not falling apart around us, you can't talk to me all the time, and you may not have access to a native speaker, and you can go out and try it, but some people might be scared to try words if they don't know whether or not they can pronounce them properly. So I would suggest you try some voice-to-text software. And the easiest one is your phone, because your phone has a microphone built into it, and most of that is now easy enough to hit a button and start to say the word. So, okay, Google would be if you're using an Android or whatever the Apple phone equivalent is, and you just say the word and see if you can search for it. I mean, Google has a built-in voice recognition or speech-to-text in its search page, so give it a try, see if it works. Okay, so In conclusion, words are divided into sound units that we call syllables, right? And some words can have one syllable, and some words can have many syllables. And it's not exactly the same as a letter, right? It could be a combination of letters, or it could be a single letter. So we're going to have one stressed syllable that's said more loudly and clearly than the others. And if you have more than one syllable in a word, you're going to have one stressed syllable, and then you're going to have unstressed syllables as well. In unstressed syllables, the vowel sounds can change. It can become a schwa vowel sound. So that sounds like a. And finally, English is a hard language. It's complicated. And electronic dictionaries are fast and they're easy. So use them to learn how to say new words and to practice the words that you've learned to make it a lot easier for you to use your time effectively when you're studying.